What if a dying prisoner's last wish wasn't for freedom, but for a single light bulb? When journalist Ava Monroe arrives at a dying prison, inmate Ray Cole, a disgraced cop locked away for 20 years, makes that one strange request. Turn the light on in cell number 9. A plea that will uncover a secret about a 20-year-old murder hidden in the dark. If you believe that the truth must always come to light, please like this video and subscribe so these hidden stories can finally be told. Stay with us, because what that single light reveals will change everything. Once, deep inside a fading Texas prison, a man's last wish was not for freedom, but for light. He had been locked away for 20 years, forgotten by the world, and no one outside those rusted gates remembered his name anymore. But when a young journalist arrived to film a story about the dying prison, she found something that would change everything. The man, a former police officer named Ray Cole, asked her for only one thing. Could you turn the light back on in cell number 9? That single request would uncover a secret buried in darkness, one that could rewrite the meaning of justice itself. They used to call him Officer Cole. Once, he was the man you'd trust to walk your children home, the kind of police officer who believed the truth and mercy were stronger than any badge. But life doesn't always reward the good ones. 20 years ago, Ray answered a call on the outskirts of Redford, Texas, a gunfire report near a grocery store. When it was over, a 12-year-old boy was dead, and the bullet, they said, came from Ray's gun. He never argued, never defended himself. He just lowered his eyes when the judge asked if he had anything to say. "No, sir," he replied. Those 2 words cost him his life. Inside prison walls, people said Ray prayed every night under a broken light bulb. They said he talked to God until one night he stopped. When the journalist, Ava Monroe, first saw him, he was 60 years old, his hair silver, his hands trembling slightly from age and time. But his voice was calm, too calm for a man who had lived that long in silence. "I used to believe in light," he told her quietly. Then one day the light went out. Ava didn't understand what he meant. Not yet. She thought it was just another metaphor used by an old man with too much guilt. But when she walked past his cell, she noticed the empty socket hanging from the ceiling, wires twisted, covered in dust. Later that night, she recorded a voiceover for her documentary. Inside this Texas prison, one man's story of forgiveness and truth began with a broken bulb and a single wish: to bring the light back to where it once shined. The guard said Ray rarely spoke, but when Ava returned with her camera, he whispered something she would never forget. "If you ever find out what really happened that night, tell his mother I tried to save him." The words chilled her to the bone. A simple story about a dying prison had just turned into something far deeper, a mystery about truth, forgiveness, and redemption that had waited 2 decades to be seen. And as the light flickered through the hallway of cell number 9, Ava realized, sometimes, even in the darkest places, truth still finds a way to shine. He had once worn the uniform with pride. Ray Cole wasn't a hero, but he tried to be a good man. He joined the Redford Police Department when he was 23, back when his daughter was just learning to walk. To serve and protect, he'd told his wife, Martha. And for a while, he did. He worked long nights, missed birthdays, missed dinners. He chased robbers, comforted victims, and prayed after every shift that he'd never have to use his gun. He believed in rules, in justice, in truth, the kind of words that used to mean something. But the night everything went wrong, truth disappeared in a flash of blue light and sirens. A call came from a small grocery store on the south side. Shots fired. When Ray arrived, there was shouting, smoke, and the terrified cry of a boy caught in the wrong place. The next morning, that boy was dead, and everyone said Ray had pulled the trigger. He didn't fight the charge. He didn't hire a lawyer who could twist the story. He just bowed his head, as if punishment itself might bring peace. "I thought if I stayed quiet," he would later tell Ava, "maybe God would understand the truth, even if men didn't." For 20 years, Silence became his cellmate. The other inmates mocked him, called him Saint Ray. Some guards pitied him, others said he deserved worse. Every night, he sat beneath that broken bulb in cell number 9, lips moving, voice too low for anyone to hear. Ava asked him once, "Do you still believe in forgiveness?" Ray smiled faintly. "I believe in light, and light forgives everything it touches." Outside the prison walls, life moved on. His wife died 5 years into his sentence. His daughter changed her name and never came back. There was no one left to visit. Only that empty cell, that dead bulb, and the faint smell of rust and dust that clung to his hands. When Ava recorded him for the first time, she noticed how carefully he spoke, each word chosen like a man afraid to break something sacred. He didn't complain, didn't blame the system, didn't even ask for sympathy. He simply said, "People think prison is about bars and keys. It's not. It's about shadows, and what you choose to see when the light's gone." Ava, who had grown up in a quiet Christian household in Austin, felt something shift inside her. She'd come here for a documentary about old prisons, about decay, reform, forgotten men. But sitting in front of Ray Cole, she saw something different. A man who had lost everything, yet still carried a strange kind of peace. That night, reviewing her footage, Ava whispered into the recorder, "This isn't just a story about guilt. It's about faith that survived in the dark." Outside her window, the streetlights flickered. Somewhere inside that Texas prison, in cell number 9, an old man sat alone, waiting for a light that hadn't shined in 20 years. And though she didn't know it yet, that light, the one he kept talking about, would soon reveal a truth powerful enough to change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Ava returned to the prison with a small box in her hands. Inside it was an old glass bulb, the kind her father used to fix back in their garage when she was a kid. She smiled softly, remembering how he used to say, "Light doesn't judge. It just shows what's already there." When she reached cell number 9, the hallway was cold and silent. Ray sat on his bed, eyes half closed, the faintest trace of a smile on his weathered face. "You really brought it," he murmured. "I told you I would," Ava replied. The warden had given her 1 hour. That was all. So Ava climbed up carefully, hands trembling, and screwed the new bulb into the rusty socket. When she flipped the switch, nothing happened. She tried again, still dark. Ray chuckled quietly. "That's all right," he said. "Some things aren't meant to shine again." But Ava wasn't ready to give up. She adjusted the wire, pressed the base a little harder, and this time, click. A soft, amber light filled the cell. For the first time in decades, the walls glowed. The dust in the air danced like golden snow. And then Ava saw it, something carved faintly into the brick behind his bed. She leaned closer, brushing away the dirt with her fingers. Words, scratched deep, shaky but clear. "Tell his mother I tried to save him." Ava froze. "Ray, did you write this?" He looked up, startled, eyes glistening under the new light. "No," he whispered. "I've never seen that before." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of the flickering bulb was the only thing between them. A faint hum, like a heartbeat, returning to life. Ava lifted her camera, almost on instinct, and began to film. Her voice trembled as she spoke softly into the mic. Inside this Texas prison, under a single working light, a message has appeared, a confession or maybe a plea. Words carved by a man who may no longer be alive. Words that say, "Tell his mother I tried to save him." Ray's hands shook. He reached out, touching the cold wall as if trying to feel the truth through the stone. That's what I was going to say that night," he murmured, but no one wanted to hear it. Ava felt her throat tighten. She looked at him, this man the world had condemned, and saw something different. Not guilt, but grief that had never found a place to rest. When she left the cell, she couldn't stop thinking about those words. She replayed the moment again and again. The glow, the wall, the look in Ray's eyes. It didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like something, or someone, wanted to be heard. That night, she wrote in her notes, "The light reveals what darkness hides." Maybe that's why he wanted it turned on. Maybe the truth has been waiting all along. Outside, the rain began to fall, tapping gently against the window of her motel room. Ava stared out into the gray Texas sky and whispered, almost to herself, whoever wrote that message didn't want to be forgotten. And for the first time since she'd started the project, Ava Monroe realized this story wasn't just about a prisoner's last wish. It was about a truth that refused to die. Ava couldn't sleep that night. The words on the prison wall haunted her. "Tell his mother I tried to save him." She kept wondering, who carved them, and who was he trying to save? By morning, she knew what she had to do. She drove 2 hours south to Redford, the small Texas town where the shooting had happened 20 years ago. The town looked tired, just like the man still sitting in cell number 9, old gas stations, shuttered shops, and a church steeple that leaned slightly to the left. She found Denise Price, the boy's mother, working at a small grocery store. Ava waited until the line was gone before walking up to the counter. "Mrs. Price," she said softly, "my name is Ava Monroe. I'm making a documentary about the Redford case." The woman froze. Her hands tightened around the register. "I have nothing to say about that man," she said. "I understand," Ava replied. "But I found something I think you should see." She opened her camera and played the short clip. The light flickered. Then the words appeared on screen. "Tell his mother I tried to save him." Denise stared at it for a moment, and then turned away. "He said a lot of things back then. None of them bring my son back." Her voice cracked on the last word, but she didn't cry. She'd run out of tears years ago. Ava nodded. "You deserve to know the truth, ma'am. All of it." Denise took a deep breath. "The truth?" she whispered. "The truth is my boy went out to buy milk and never came home. They said it was an accident, but accidents don't steal your sleep for 20 years. They just sit with you at the table every morning." Ava's heart ached. She thought of her own mother, how faith and grief sometimes shared the same face. "Would you talk to me?" Ava asked gently, off camera. "No one else has to know." For a long time, Denise said nothing. Then she sighed. "He used to come by our street. Officer Cole, always polite. My boy liked him. Said he felt safe when he saw the patrol car. I guess that's the part that hurts the most." The silence between them grew heavy. Ava turned off the camera. She wasn't here for footage anymore. She just wanted this woman to know that someone was still listening. Before leaving, Ava placed a small USB drive on the counter. "This has the footage. You can watch it when you're ready." Denise looked down at it, hesitant, then whispered, "If he really tried to save my son, why didn't he say so?" Ava didn't know how to answer. "Maybe he thought no one would believe him," she said quietly. "Or maybe he thought he didn't deserve to be forgiven." That night, back at the motel, Ava dug through old case files she'd found at the courthouse. One page caught her eye, a ballistic report, time-stamped before the official arrest. The signature at the bottom didn't match. Someone had altered the evidence. Ava felt her pulse quicken. The story was changing shape before her eyes. This wasn't just about forgiveness anymore. It was about justice, the kind that had been stolen. She picked up her recorder and whispered into it, "When light touches the truth, it doesn't just reveal. It demands to be seen. And maybe it's time someone finally looked." Outside, the motel sign flickered in the rain, like a heartbeat echoing from cell number 9. Ava returned to the prison with the evidence file tucked under her arm. The air felt heavier than usual, thick with something unspoken. She walked past the guards, down the dim corridor where the light from cell number 9 still glowed faintly. Ray was sitting on his bunk, staring at the wall where the message was carved. He didn't turn when she entered. "I found something," she said quietly. He looked up, his eyes calm but tired. "Then it's your story now." "No," Ava replied. "It's ours." She placed the file on the small metal table. "The ballistic report from your case, it was altered. The bullet that killed that boy didn't match your gun. Someone changed the paperwork. Ray's jaw tightened. His hands trembled slightly as he picked up the papers. You shouldn't have done this, he said softly. The truth costs people too much. Maybe, Ava answered. But hiding it costs more. A voice came from behind her. You're not supposed to be here, Ms. Monroe. It was Darren Pike, now a guard in the same prison where Ray was serving his sentence. His face had aged, but his eyes, nervous, restless, still carried something heavy. I got permission, Ava said. No one's got permission for what you're doing, he replied, his tone shaking. You think you're helping him, but you're just stirring ghosts. She turned the camera toward him. Mr. Pike, you were there that night, weren't you? He froze. Turn that off. I just want to know what really happened, Ava pressed gently. For his mother, for the boy. The silence stretched. Darren's breathing grew shallow. He looked at Ray, then back at the wall, at the flickering light that seemed to grow brighter with every second. Please, Ava whispered, tell me. Then came a sound, a faint click. The light flickered again, just like it had 20 years ago. Darren flinched, his hands shook. That sound, he muttered. I still hear it every night. Ray's voice was barely a whisper. You remember it too, don't you? Darren's face crumpled. It wasn't supposed to happen, he said, his voice cracking. The kid ran. I told him to stop. I fired once. Ray tried to pull me back. He stepped in front of me. The words hung in the air like a confession carved into stone. Ava didn't move. Ray closed his eyes, his shoulders sinking, not in anger, but in something closer to peace. Darren fell against the wall, breathing hard. He took the blame so I could keep my job. Said the department couldn't survive another scandal. Ray finally spoke, his tone steady. I thought God would make it right in his time. Ava's eyes filled with tears, and he just did. She reached for her recorder, but Darren stopped her. You can't release that, he said. You'll ruin everything. Everything was already ruined, Ava said. I'm just turning the light back on. He didn't try to stop her again. He just stood there, staring at the glowing bulb above them. Its hum filled the silence, steady and warm, like a heartbeat that had waited 2 decades to be heard. Later that night, Ava sat in her car outside the prison, the recording still playing in her hand. Darren's voice trembled through the speaker. He tried to save the kid. She whispered to herself, the truth has been in the dark for 20 years, but tonight, it came to light. And somewhere behind those iron gates, the light in cell number 9 stayed on, burning quietly through the night, as if it refused to die again. Ray didn't live long enough to see the truth set him free. A week after Darren's confession, his body was found in cell number 9. Peaceful, eyes closed, hands folded over his chest. The light above him was still on. It had burned all night, humming softly, like it refused to leave him in the dark one last time. When Ava got the call, she drove back to the prison in silence. The warden met her at the gate, holding a small box. Inside were Ray's belongings, a dented badge, a pocket Bible, and a folded note written in shaky handwriting. It said, "Light tells no lies." Ava held the paper against her chest and cried. Not the loud kind of grief, but the quiet, heavy kind that sits in your throat and won't let you breathe. She thought of everything he'd lost. His wife, his daughter, his name. And yet, in the end, the only thing he'd asked for was light. That night, she uploaded the documentary. She titled it, The Light Under Cell 9, a true story of forgiveness and truth. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. People across the country watched in silence as the screen filled with the soft glow of that prison cell and the voice of a man who'd carried the burden of another's sin. The clip of Darren's confession echoed across social media. He tried to save the kid. The truth was out. The court reopened the case. But it no longer mattered to Ray. He was already gone. Among the thousands of viewers who watched the video that night was Denise Price. She sat alone in her kitchen, the light above her table flickering just slightly as the video played. She saw the wall, the carving, the man who had taken the blame for her son's death. When the video ended, she didn't cry right away. She just stared at the dark screen, whispering the words to herself. He tried to save him. Then she walked to her bedroom, opened a drawer, and pulled out an old photograph of her boy. She placed it beside a small candle and lit the wick. In the quiet glow, she whispered, "I forgive you, Officer Cole." Ava was still awake when she received an email notification. It was a single comment under the video. No name, no profile picture. Just 7 words. The boy's mother forgives him. Thank you. She stared at the screen, tears streaming down her face. For the first time, the story she'd been chasing no longer felt like an investigation. It felt like a prayer answered. Outside her window, dawn was beginning to rise. A faint pink light spread across the Texas sky, and for a moment, Ava thought of Ray. How he once said that light forgives everything it touches. She turned off her laptop, sat in the stillness, and whispered, "You were right, Ray. The light doesn't lie." In that moment, she understood something he had known all along. Some people wait a lifetime for freedom. Others find it the moment the truth is finally seen. A year later, the old Redford Penitentiary was shut down for good. The gates were welded closed, the cells emptied, the halls left to silence and dust. But one light, one single bulb in cell number 9, was never removed. Ava returned there on a gray autumn morning. She walked slowly through the abandoned corridors, her footsteps echoing off the cracked concrete. Dust floated in the air, catching the pale sunlight that streamed through the broken windows. She carried a small camera, not for her film this time, but for herself. When she reached Ray's cell, the bulb was still there, still hanging from that crooked wire. Someone, she never found out who, had cleaned the wall. The carved words were faint now, but still visible. "Tell his mother I tried to save him." Ava stood quietly for a long moment, then set her camera on the ground. "I came to say thank you," she said softly. "You kept your promise." The truth found its way home. She reached up and pulled the chain switch. The bulb flickered once, twice, then glowed. The light spread across the cold walls, warm and steady like a heartbeat that refused to stop. She whispered, "Maybe that's what light really is. Not forgiveness, not justice. Just truth that refuses to die." When she stepped back outside, the morning air felt cleaner somehow. Across the road, a new church had been built. On its front lawn stood a small memorial plaque engraved with the words, "In memory of Officer Raymond Cole, the light that told the truth." Ava smiled through her tears. For years she had chased stories about the broken parts of the world. But this one had fixed something in her. Before leaving, she looked up at the sky, a wide stretch of blue streaked with white clouds, and spoke one last line into her recorder. "Sometimes the brightest light doesn't free a man. It frees the truth. And when that truth is finally seen, maybe that's what forgiveness really means." As she drove away, the camera in the back seat kept recording. Through the rear window, the sun broke through the clouds, and for just a second, its reflection caught the dusty glass of cell number 9. Still shining, still alive, still telling the truth.